Hey everybody, I first want to start off by saying I hope you guys had an amazing Thanksgiving. This episode is coming out the week after Thanksgiving, so I just hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving, ate a bunch of food, had delicious desserts, and were able to spend some time with family and friends. The reason for this week's episode is because first I had listened to 2 different podcasts that talked about emotions, and I already had this concept on my mind when I thought about the emotions that could come up during these holiday seasons. And I think that when I first thought about this topic, I thought about when you're a child or if you're a parent of a kid. When your kid is upset or when you were upset as a child, you would cry when things upset you. Or you would kick and scream when things upset you. And you would, grab onto your parent when you were scared or when you feared something. Or when you didn't like something that they fed you, you would scrunch up your face in disgust. And when I thought about it more as like parents who have children, or if you're an uncle, a niece, a grandparent, you can look at kids and pick up on those emotions on how they're actually feeling. And it made me think of how we also, when we see those emotions, we go up to the kid or the child and we say, like, why are you crying? What's wrong? What are you scared of? What's making you angry? Even on those times when they look out somewhere and they're laughing, you walk up and you're like, what are you laughing at? What is so funny? And we are so concerned about the emotions that they're having and why they're having it that I think that when we become adults, we forget to really dive into the emotions and feel the emotions and understand the emotions that we're having. And listening to your emotions are important because it helps you better understand why you might be feeling the way you do. And this can also help you make better decisions because our emotions play a huge part in the decisions that we make in life and how we're feeling about something, and if it makes us nervous or happy or excited or we fear the change. So our emotions play a big part on how our day-to-day lives function from morning to night. And you might not realize that from the morning until you lay down at nighttime, how many different emotions you might go through during the daytime as well. Because your emotions are going to allow you to really express how you feel about the places, the people, the events you go to, situations that you encounter during your day. And these daily emotions can help you understand more about what upsets you and what makes you happy and what makes you angry. And then it also can help you to avoid those uncomfortable situations in the future. So something I realize is that as an adult, I've done it myself where we push our emotions down because we don't want to feel them in the moment. With struggling with depression and anxiety, I had many moments of sadness where I didn't want to feel the sadness, so I kind of pushed it away and pushed it to the side because I didn't want to feel it. Or I would get anxious and I'm like, okay, you know what, I don't want to feel anxious, so let's think of something else or go do something else. Or anger, when you get angry about something, you don't want to feel that, so you kind of push it to the side. And we don't realize is that the more we keep pushing our emotions to the side, and pushing them and pushing them and pushing them, it can cause them over time to really build up. So if you're angry and you keep pushing that anger to the side, or if you're sad and you keep pushing those 2 emotions to the side, and every time it comes up you push it, and every time it comes up you push it, then eventually somebody's going to say something to you and it's going to trigger that emotion and you're going to have an outburst. And sometimes I think this is what happens with kids, is that something upsets them so much and they just are holding it in that eventually they throw a tantrum and you're like, oh my gosh, why are you on the floor throwing your arms up and stomping and all this stuff. It's because they've held it in for so long, and that now it's coming out. It's a tantrum. And I feel like adults do that too. We just don't realize we're doing it. We build up these emotions and then we burst on somebody that we really didn't mean to burst on, or it wasn't even about what they really said. It was just all this built up stuff that we kept inside before. So I want you to give yourself permission to feel those emotions in a loving and gentle voice, because we can be very hard on ourselves for feeling the way we feel, because sometimes we don't want to feel them. So we can be really hard on ourselves. So let's be gentle with ourselves and tell ourselves that it's okay to feel the emotion that you're feeling and to sit in that emotion and to really understand that emotion. Even during these holiday seasons where depression can come up, or stress can come up, or anxiety because the shopping and the meal prep, or being sad because you lost somebody either before, or you're not going to be with family and it brings up bad feelings and stuff like that. But denying those feelings or belittling yourself for having those feelings can tend to make you feel worse than to feel better. So don't hold on to the emotions for too long, but it's good to sit in them and to understand them. So something that I thought of is to mark the times during your day when you feel the emotions, when you feel the sadness, the anger, the anxiousness, being happy, the disgust, the fear, and even those moments where you feel peace. Think about what's happening in those moments and why you might be feeling the way you're feeling. So something you could do to start practicing this is start in the morning of your day. Maybe do it a few times a week or once a week, and pick a day and say, from morning to night, I am going to track how I feel all throughout my day. And then when those feelings come up, stop in the moment and try to understand why you might be feeling the way you're feeling. This was something for me that I talked about in my Anxiety is Ruling My Life episode. It was those moments in the car where I was getting anxious and I had to think to myself, what is making me feel the way I'm feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Okay, we're in the car and there's traffic and there's nothing I can do. So it's making me anxious. Why is it making me anxious? Because I'm going to be late for work. Well, why would that make you anxious? Because I'm never late for work and I'm always on time. Or driving in the rain. Oh, I'm anxious and I'm gripping the steering wheel. Why am I doing that? Because it's raining. Well, why does the rain make me anxious? Because I get nervous with driving in the rain and the conditions and all that. So when we're really able to sit in the emotion, then we'll be able to understand more what we're going through. This was something too for me that I had to sit in with my depression when it would come up at like parties and stuff, and then I would feel it coming on and then I would have to push it down. Later on, when I would come home and lay in bed and like be sobbing, there were some times where I couldn't think of a reason why this emotion was happening, but other reasons I could think to myself, okay, what during my day made me upset, or did someone say something that triggered me that made this emotion come up and now I'm feeling it? Because it'll help you in the future better understand when the emotions come up and why they come up, and then you can understand, like, in the future, okay, if somebody says something like this or this happens, this is the emotion that I'm going to feel, and these are the steps I can put into place when that emotion comes up. So the reason I say during the holiday seasons is because for some of us, this can be the saddest time of the year with missing family or people who have passed away. And I think for a lot of us, the sadness just keeps going because we just think of all the things we're going to miss. But something that I thought about that could turn that around is, instead of thinking of all the person that you're missing and how sad it's going to be, you can also maybe turn that around and think of all the good memories and the past holidays you guys were able to spend together. Look at pictures and videos. It'll bring a smile to your face and maybe laugh when something funny happened. So maybe instead of dwelling on all the sad things that are going to be around these times, even when their birthdays come up or any other holidays or family events, instead of being sad that that person isn't there, we can remember the happy times and the good things and the things that made us laugh, and just the time we got to spend with them while they were here. And it's really good to address and listen to the emotions that come up to figure out why you're feeling the way you do and give them meaning. Because if you're feeling the emotion and you don't want to feel the emotion, again, pushing it down is not going to help. And something else that you can do during the holidays that's really important is to still have your boundaries around your friends and your family members, so they still know what you will and will not talk about, the actions you will and will not allow, and how you want to be treated, because we can be so stressed out trying to make everybody else happy instead of making ourselves happy. And listening to your emotions for your mental health is going to be very important, because when you're depressed, you're sad. And when you're anxious, you have anxiety. And then with people that are dealing with like bipolar and your mood's changing all the time, you can go from one mood to the next mood to this mood. And during these holiday seasons, I think for people who are dealing with a mental health illness, these ramp up even more because you're stressed out and you have to buy gifts. And then again, you have to cook the dinners and you have to go to these events and you have to make the time to do that. And it can stress you out. So for your mental health, this is very important to listen to your emotions, not just during this time, but during the rest of the year, so you can understand and control on what is going on with your body and how you are feeling. So something you can do during this holiday season or during the rest of your year is to make a list of all the things that stress you out. And you sit and you list all these things that stress you out during the holidays or during the years or these events that are coming up or these birthdays. And you can do it anytime during the year. And then I want you to erase the ones that are out of your control and only focus on the ones that you can control, because we will stress ourselves out thinking of all the things that are coming up, and then we'll stress ourselves even more about the things that we can't control. We can't control the weather or how your family's going to react to you or what they're going to say to you or the things throughout your day that are going to happen. So think of the things you can control and then focus on that, and that can help you feel a lot less stressed during this time. Something else that you can do for your mental health and during this season is to identify the things that trigger you. Knowing your own unique triggers can help you curb your emotional reactivity and can put in plans to reduce the stress related to that. So I want you to think about the people that trigger you, the places that trigger you, the events that trigger you, the holidays that trigger you, things that can trigger a past trauma or upsetting events. Because when you can figure out your triggers as well, when those emotions come up, you can figure out what triggered it and how you're going to go forward. Everything that I'm talking about right now in this episode, I think links up together. So understanding your emotions. Well, how do I understand my emotions? Okay, first, let's think about the things that stress you out, that make you upset, that bring that emotion. Okay, what are the things that bring up that emotion? That's another thing you can do too. Make a list of all the things that bring up the emotion. Make a list of all the things that make you sad, make you angry, that you fear, make you anxious, make you happy. And then you can find the triggers that come along with those. Okay, this makes me sad. What is the trigger that triggers it? Or what is a place, a person, somebody's going to say something that's going to trigger that? How can I understand of why that emotion comes up and why that's triggered? And then what can I do to put in plan to make myself feel better, or to understand why I'm going through it, and then to not have to go through that in the future and to have to feel that way again. So listening to your emotions is going to be a skill, which means you might not have that much experience in it, but that's okay, because when you learn how to process and understand your feelings, you are learning and you can practice that. It's not something that you're going to automatically be, oh, I'm going to do it today and figure it out and have it done. It's not magically going to happen. It almost reminds me of I always go back to working out or eating healthy. It's not something you're going to choose to do today. It's going to come easy and you're going to do it every day. It's something that you have to practice on. And the more you practice on how to understand what's triggering you and understanding why that emotion comes up and how you're going to deal with it, the easier it's going to be over time. So one of the first things I think you could do during your day is to listen to your body and the physical sensations that come up around the emotion. Sometimes I don't think we realize that our bodies are giving us the first signal on what emotion is going to come up, because your body is going to act differently to different emotions. Your body, when you're sad, you could feel it in your chest, in your face, your eyes. When you're anxious, you feel it in your chest, your sweaty palms. When you're angry, you could feel it through your whole body, tensing up. Fear, you're getting real close to your body and grabbing something. When you're at peace, you can feel your body relaxing. So that is something that when the emotion first comes up, I want you to maybe stop in that moment and think, where am I feeling in my body? And really hone in on that. Because then you can pay attention to how intense the feeling is. Is the pounding in my chest really intense? Oh my gosh, okay, my anxiety is really high. Is my whole body tensing up? And my fists, are they, crunching together? Okay, yes, I am very angry. When you're scared, okay, am I stepping back? Am I really holding on to something? Okay, that's my thing for fear. When you're happy, how much am I laughing? Am I throwing up my arms? My head's going back. These are things you could pay attention to, and the intensity is how fast it comes or how little it feels, because when you then can identify the body feeling and then how intense it's going to be, that determines your appropriate reaction or response to things. Because when someone upsets you and it's a little upset, you're just like, okay, whatever, it's fine. But when somebody really upsets you, then you can feel it in your body. You can feel the anger coming on in your face. You feel your face getting tense, and you can feel that emotion coming, like you're going to yell at them, like, you know what I mean? So you can feel the intensity when you're sad. Or is it a little bit of sadness, like when you're watching a movie and something's sad and you're like, oh, that's so sad? Or is it full on crying and you're really feeling it and you're holding yourself? These are things to just pay attention to when you're listening to your emotions, because your emotions are going to tell you how you feel in the moment, or when something's going to come up and you feel uncomfortable, your body is going to tell you how you feel. And again, if your body is giving you a sensation and you're ignoring that sensation, over time that sensation is going to get more intense and intense and intense, and then you're going to eventually have a tantrum like a child, and it's going to explode. So because our emotions can feel so overwhelming at times and so intense, you might think to yourself, well, what do I do to recenter myself, to calm myself down? And a few things that you can do is do breathing exercises. When you feel anxiety or something coming on, or anger, you could do like a 1, 2, 3 in, 1, 2, 3 out breathing. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. That can calm you down. Or if you're very intensely angry, you could count backwards. Okay, when I get really mad, I'm going to count backwards from 10 to 1. And by the time I get to 1, I'll be more calmer, and then I can address the situation that I need to address. Or another thing that a lot of people do is pick out a color in the room when you're upset or angry or anxious or you're scared. Okay, I see something blue. What else is in the room that is blue? Okay, that's blue, and that's blue, and that's blue. And that can change and take your mind off the situation so you can come back to the situation. I think that when the emotion comes up, we are so ready to jump into that emotion that sometimes our reaction or responses to that can come off wrong and can come off as hurtful, or we can offend somebody by saying something that we didn't necessarily mean to say or offend them. So if we could take a second, do a breathing exercise, count backwards, it gives us enough time to maybe, I'm thinking of when you're angry, this could give you enough time to calm yourself down so you could have the right response and the right words come out, instead of really going at somebody and getting angry and then having to go back later and say look, I'm sorry I said this, I didn't mean to say this. How can we fix it? Let's talk about it. Let's move on. Another thing that made me think of the movie Inside Out is assigning your emotions with characters. And this is something that you would have a child do, because it helps them understand why the emotions might be coming up. But this is also something that can help you as an adult, because it can truly help you understand what your emotions are trying to tell you in that moment. And when you choose to ignore your emotions, again, it gives them time to build up. So if you're trying to really dive into listening to your emotions, listening to the sensations in your body, the intensity of them, you can also give them characters. And I mean, if you wanted to, just choose the characters from Inside Out. And if you haven't seen that movie, see that movie, because that one is telling you and teaching you about emotions and teaching kids about why the emotions come up and the memories that go with the emotions and the situations that go through with the emotions and how it can make you feel. And when you do that as an adult, it'll give you that moment to understand why you are feeling how you're feeling. If you haven't got this so far during this episode, it is all about listening to how you feel and how the emotion makes you feel and understanding why you feel that way. So then maybe when those situations or those uncomfortable conversations come up in the future, you know how to process them and you know how to listen to your body and the intensity of the situation and you know how to respond in a nice and calming manner. So this is why when the emotions come up, I want you to stay in the emotions to explore them. Yes, a lot of the times when sadness comes up or anger comes up or something comes up, when we don't want to feel that emotion, it is easy to push it to the side. But I'm saying and telling you that if you don't avoid it and we choose to sit in the emotion, then that will allow us to not miss out behind the real meanings that the emotion is trying to tell us. Our emotions can feel overwhelming, confusing at times, and that's why we push them to the side and we don't want to feel them. But once we can really tune into our emotions, then that is how we really start to understand why we feel the way we do, and it can help us decrease how intensely we are feeling them. This is obviously going to sound like a lot of work to a lot of people, but if you're really trying to work on feeling your emotions and listening to your emotions, or really trying to work on your mental health, this is something that's going to help you so greatly. This is going to be your greatest skill, because when the emotions come up, you can sit in it, you can understand it, you can react properly to it, and then you can take the steps into place that you can put for yourself, that plan to help you get out of that mood or get out of that feeling or have it not feel so intense. Because remember that respecting and honoring your emotions is really about respecting and honoring yourself. Give yourself that time to understand why you're really feeling the way you feel, why that emotion came up, what's going on that's in front of you. Again, did someone say something to you? Is it the place that you saw or the place that you are? Is it the event that you're at? Is it an uncomfortable situation that you're in? Because when you can feel it in your body, and then when you can address it yourself and really try to understand, the easier it is going to be to understand your emotions in the future. And then you can understand those uncomfortable situations or those uncomfortable conversations that you just know that you have to have, and you know the emotions that are going to come up. But you're going to put in these plans in place so then when the emotions do come up, you know how to sit with them, you know how to understand them, and you know how to react to somebody when they make you angry or sad or anxious. The reason I say anxious and sad is because those are the ones that come up for me with having depression and anxiety, or just being antsy and stuff about situations, because those are the feelings I had. And when I was really going through my depression, or like I said, even recently with my anxiety, it's really important to stop in that moment and think of, why am I feeling this way? Why is my body feeling this way? And how can I put in some kind of plan that when these emotions come up, I, meditate, or I have a breathing, or I watch something that's funny, or I talk it out with somebody, and then I can feel better and move on from that emotion. Sitting in the emotions are going to help you just understand it, but don't, again, sit in them for too long, because then over time you're going to feel like, I don't want to feel that emotion, I don't want to sit in that emotion, so I'm just not going to. And again, then you're going to start to learn how to push them aside instead of truly understanding. That's why I said, as a kid, or as a parent as a kid, you want to understand why your child is feeling the way they're feeling so you can make it better, and you can understand that when something happens like that again, okay, this is what I did last time to help you, this is what I can do again. And I think as an adult, and as adults, we can do this for ourselves like you would do for a child. Okay, why are you feeling this way? what can I do to make you feel better? Or who can I talk to make me feel better, or talk this out, or get this off my chest? And then when that situation comes up again in the future, you know exactly how to feel and what you're doing. Emotions are something everybody has. It's something that throughout your day, you're going to have many emotions. Some emotions you might not even realize you're having, but when you can start identifying the certain emotions that, like sadness or anxious or anger or fear or disgust, that, come up, and you really realize why they're coming up and the things that trigger that and the intensity of them and the feelings in your body, easier again it's going to be for you when something like that comes up again. And that's why it was so funny listening to other two podcasts that talked about emotions and thinking about like the emotions that come in when you have a mental health illness, because you feel so many emotions all the time, and many times we don't understand where the emotion is coming from or why it's happening. And a lot of the time the people around us don't understand the feelings that we're having and the emotions that we're having because they don't understand it. So I think also if we start really diving into our emotions and understanding it, it can make it easier for us to explain to other people why we're feeling the way we're feeling and why these feelings and emotions are coming up. So then when they do come up, it could also trigger that person maybe to help you put in a plan to help you understand, but to help them understand how they can help you get through it and help maybe change that emotion to a different emotion, or just to help you get through that emotion by talking it out and going through it and then releasing the emotion. So I really hope that after this episode you can, put a plan into place for when emotions come up. And like I said, maybe take a day a week or a few times a week and make a list of the things that stress you out, or make a list of the emotions that come up frequently, the places, the people, the things that are said, the keywords that might be said when somebody says something. And then you can figure out, okay, this is what triggers me. This is the emotion that I have that comes up. And this is how I usually react. Okay, so what can I put into place in the middle between how the emotion comes up and how I'm reacting? Okay, I can put breathing exercises. I can do counting. I can do meditation. I can step away from that person for a second and say, hold on, let me step away, recenter myself, and come back so I can react in a way that's not going to offend you, that's not going to upset you, and that's not going to keep the situation reoccurring time after time. So like always, guys, I want you to remember that you are never alone and that I love you. Thank you so much for listening to another episode. You know what would be so cool? If you guys could share, like, comment my episodes. It is so helpful to know what you guys like and what you guys want to hear, and it'll help my podcast get out there more if you're liking it and sharing it, so other people can come by and also be able to hear episodes that might help them too. So I'll talk to you guys in the next episode. Bye!